I'm going to review my options trades from this morning. It was another fantastic morning. Before I get started, for those of you that are trading right now, that's a perfect double bottom on ES. The pivot that it bounced off of is very old, but it is this here. It's not the most major pivot in the world, but it is a solid hourly pivot here, and it is a perfect double bottom. So I am bearish for new low of day at some point. Decent chance it happens soon since this is bearish consolidation breaking to the downside here. But aside from that, I'm going to review my options trades this morning. As you guys know, I stopped trading the second hour of futures. It's been pretty damn solid so far. And right as I say it, ES is going for a new low of day. And then technically, I'd also be bearish for NQ new low of day on top of that. But this morning was a phenomenal morning. Was a very big deal. Was a very, very nice morning. And the reason why it was such a nice morning, well, because yesterday we dropped quite a bit. And beyond that, I had some pivots, very major pivots, here on ES and here on ES as well. One was here, one was here. It was practically a perfect double bottom. These pivots were off by one singular tick. So, yesterday was pretty bearish. When I sent my pre-market analysis, you can see that, yes, we did technically make lower lows, and yes, we're technically in heavy demand on the big time frames, which you can see here, but I don't really care. With a trend this big and the bounce is this large, keep invalidating, it's pretty bearish. So I said I am extremely bearish for 58.09, and I said I couldn't be more bearish for 57.97. I looked at it as pretty much a perfect double bottom. On top of that, we had bearish consolidation on the 15-minute chart. It was a nice little bear pennant. Now, the only downside was this bear pennant had a perfect double top. That was the only downside. But NQ, ES was weaker than NQ, and NQ did not have a perfect double top. In fact, it was chopping up, swept sell side liquidity. So on the open candle, this is now 1 minute before market open, I filled SPX puts. Not quite full size. It's rare that I enter right when the market opens. I didn't actually enter the second the market opened. I waited a little bit because it put in a tiny little green candle during this. And then I filled more into this candle. Now, I filled more at the top of this candle when it flipped green. And it's just kind of by luck that the candle finished red. I didn't really expect it to finish that red. But the reason why I added puts there, actually up to my full size, is because look how big the wick was on NQ. NQ was exploding to the upside. ES was not. So this confirmed what I was really looking for on ES. ES is weaker. And I picked up on that extremely fast. I've never picked up on that faster and actually executed a trade as a result of that. Very quick information. So, was in puts. First blue line was my PT. Wasn't going to trim any until NQ also got new low of day. Boom. Just got new low of day. Took a heavy trim there. But I was still in a decent amount. I mean, I had roughly a third left. So I took the 56.90 puts. I pretty much had an average of 3.1, maybe 3.2. I mean, the alert happened so fast, I just typed 3.0, but I think it was actually like 3.1-ish. And even when it retested, it only got to 3.1, which I noticed the put premiums were very I guess technically the put premiums were bullish, as in the put premiums looked like they were going to keep going up. So the put premiums made price action look bearish. They were gaining value. That was another thing that happened this morning that I didn't really talk about. Anyways, the puts got to 64% gains. I did trim, but this wasn't what I was looking for. And I said if we bounce, I'm re-adding. Well, I ended up adding just a little bit at wait, hang on. I don't think I did. Almost pulled the trigger here to re-add. I said if this green candle if this bounce invalidates, I'm back in actually really heavy. It didn't. So this whole time, I'm just waiting for this bounce to invalidate. NQ shoots up, sweeps, pre-market high. I do say, and I still have a little bit left in this trade. I have like a third or a quarter left. I had a few contracts left, right? I did say if ES gets to 58.28, I'll scalp SPX calls for this high. Obviously, I have to. It's a perfect double top. But unless that happens, I'm bearish. Got a little bit higher. A little bit higher. Was about to pull the trigger and stop out of those last ones. And then boom, I re-entered SPX puts on this candle and going into the next candle. Not the same strike, though. It was a little bit expensive. I didn't actually call it out until pretty much the next candle opened, but I filled on that red candle. I waited just a half second to call it out because I was immediately red, and I knew that the best time to fill was not the time I filled. So I actually called it out during this candle. Kind of towards the end, and when the next candle opened red, that's when I called it. But I dropped down a strike to the 56.85 puts. Now keep in mind, I still had the 56.90 puts. I only had a few of them though. I re-entered the 56.85 puts at 3.4. Obviously, trading much heavier than not a ton heavier than I usually do, but the probability warranted it, right? You got to keep in mind you're unable to change your size, or if you're confident in a trade, you should not increase your size if you're not willing to take a loss. Most people, if they go heavy on a trade because they're super confident and it goes up, they just start averaging down, right? That's not what we do here. So, anyways, by this point, not here, NQ was a little bit weaker, unfortunately, but by this point, I was in there like underwear. I actually averaged up a bit. Not a lot. I filled just under my full size, but this was nice. This was a nice drop. ES got new low of day. NQ barely missed low of day, so I'm bearish for NQ to get new low of day. Was a decent trim, though. And I did not trim it, of course. Would have been a decent trim, but I did not trim it. And then you guys saw by the tenors I was sending, like the GIFs in my channel. The old black guy that stares at the camera. That's exactly me whenever I get super close to a PT. And then how did I forget his name? What's the dude from The Boys' name? How in the world did I forget that name? Fantastic show. It is very violent. If you guys have not watched it. But anyways, that sigh was me every time it bounced. There was hope, though, because NQ was bouncing so much harder than ES. It was so much weaker. And I said, I'm going to add puts on a bounce. If this bounce invalidates, I'm adding puts. And those puts did end up getting 47% gains there, but I wasn't out. Here's where I was thinking about adding back to puts. We got a huge selling wick. Boom. Added even more. Roughly right here. Didn't alert it or anything, but I am looking for this here. And we finally get it. Take heavy trims, but the job's still not done because now I'm looking for NQ new low of day. It tries missing it. It doesn't last very long. And there you go. And I actually re-added puts on this candle. Because remember, I heavy trim when my ESPT hit. When this candle happened, I said if this bounce invalidates on NQ, I'm re-entering puts. I actually re-entered the exact same puts at like $500 a put. It was like 500 something dollars a put. I didn't, I sold, by the time ES hit my big PT here, I sold the original puts, all of them. The 56.90 puts, I sold all of them. I only had 56.85. I didn't want to have to manage two positions with two strikes again. That's too much work. So I just re-entered, added a couple of the 56.85 puts here. And I'm just looking for NQ new low of day. Boom. It hits. I'm out. That's the end of the story. I did leave one single runner, which I kind of shouldn't have done considering now they were like almost $800 a put. I ended up selling that runner here at 810, I believe is when I sold. I did leave you guys with some sentiment, though. I did say I'm very bearish for these blue lines down here, but I don't know when it's going to happen. The puts are probably going to start chopping. Especially because NQ's chopping down in kind of a falling wedge now. I can see a bounce happening. Plus, you can't see it on the 1 minute, but we are in heavy demand. And obviously you can't see on the 1 minute because premium trading view only goes 20,000 candles back, and that demand is probably over a year old, so it's more than 20,000 candles. It did end up bouncing. I sold the bottom. But we did end up continuing down to where I said it was going to go. So, very nice. And now, I assume that ES barely missed the perfect double bottom. So I also don't trade the second hour of price action, as you guys know, because, I mean, let's see what would have happened. I would have hopped in a long trade here, maybe, stopped out. Would I have actually? I don't know. I can't technically get triggered in. Definitely puts here, or shorts. Probably would have stopped out too. Or would have got very close. So you guys, second hour is not the move. It's just not the move. Trade in the first hour or trade the strategy that I gave you guys. But yeah, that is the recap of my morning. So in essence, the first SPX puts got 77% gains. The second one's got 135%. And then the ones I re-added ended up getting 66%. But that was kind of it's kind of a separate alert. But it was good. It was very good. I was very happy with what it did. And yeah, by the way, the third alert, it was technically a separate alert, but it was just one trade for me. You know, the trade that was 135%, it's the one that I entered here and sold most of here. Had a couple contracts left. Re-entered some of them here. And then sold them here. So the original ones that I had got to 135%, which is kind of low, to be honest. You'd expect it goes more when it drops, you know, 50 freaking points on ES, but that looked really good for ES to hit this low here. If I were trading futures, I would definitely be entering now. I would have to. And then we'll see if the second hour ends up hornswoggling it or not. But then the ones I re-added at 4.8, pretty much right around $500. I think one of them actually filled over 500 for some reason. I think that's what I remember. Those also got to 8.0 and a little bit beyond that. So those ones did 66%. But that being said, does anyone have any questions whatsoever regarding anything I just talked about? And yeah, Guru was a very easy. I sent a screenshot of my pre-market analysis 2 minutes before open. And I said, and I quote, "Good morning, team. I couldn't be more bearish for 57.97.5 to break. NQ did sweep a big pivot, and we are in heavy demand, though, which makes amounts possible, but my bearishness for that pivot overrides that." That was my pre-market analysis. I couldn't be more bearish for 57.97. And as a result of that, pretty much every single person, at least in premium, printed. And everyone else that looked at my channel across all the other servers should have done very well as well. But all right, any questions whatsoever before I wrap up this trade review? And also with the new strategy that I've been working on, I'm finishing February stats today. I took literally every single trade that I can get triggered into, so the win rate's way down. Still profitable though. But through adding a couple of rules, that win rate's going to jump up quite a bit. So I'm going to release the February stuff raw, just like I did with the January, just the raw data, non-refined, no rules whatsoever. And then I'm going to do December as well. And then after December, I'll look back over each trade and add a couple of rules that would have drastically improved the win rate for 1 or 2 of the months. Right, doesn't look like there's any questions. So I will see you guys later. Good luck if you continue to trade. Congrats on the gains if you made any. And yeah, if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out. I forgot to post yesterday's video on YouTube, so I'm going to be posting both of these on YouTube today. And yeah, hopefully this hits new low of day, because I'm sure a lot of you guys are trying to go for it. And yeah, anyways, have a good day. I'll keep you guys updated on the details with the new strategy, and I'll release it at some point today. Right, I'll see you guys later.